Kaal Bhairav appears at that point in all of his Ugram, fierce, intense glory.
Why did I not see as many Ugra Devatas growing up? Can you guys see it? They will level the shrine of their local deity to the ground and build a Christian prayer house on the site. And I saw him and I was just like, oh my God, it's Kaal Bhairav. Hinduism isn't just about ahimsa and praying to Krishna and Vishnu. And I learned this on my 3-month trip through India. You walk through Kaal Bhairav's fire, and that fire will literally devour all of those lower energies out of you. It'll clear you out. And then you stand before Kaal Bhairav, and all you feel is limitless love. This is the story of how I met Kaal Bhairava, one of the most intense deities that you will ever encounter. If you're seeing this video, I'm so excited for you, because for him to enter your life, you have nothing to fear after this. You have nothing to fear. I'm breaking this down into a 2-part video series. This is part 1, where I will introduce to you the deity who is Kaal Bhairava. I'm also going to talk to you about how I was led to him and that entire experience of what it felt like to connect with Kaal Bhairava. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to talk about the concept of Ugra Devatas. In part 2 of this series, I'm going to talk about my Upasana experience doing, I think it was 41 days of non-stop Kaal Bhairav Upasana. That Upasana culminated in Mahashivaratri. I'm also going to share with you how you can start your Upasana of Kaal Bhairava. So let's get started. In November 2023, I decided to book a one-way ticket to India. Those 90 or 100 days in India changed my entire being and my entire life. Before I went on this trip, I almost exclusively only prayed to Krishna. Why was there any need for me to pray to anyone else? This trip changed all of that. It connected me to deities I had never even heard of. And it put me on the path to becoming a devotee of both Shiva and Devi. It was a soul pilgrimage back to my deities, back to my motherland, back to my roots. And God, it was towards the second half of this trip in India that I first met Kaal Bhairava. When I was in Bangalore, I heard from an old friend of mine. Now, this was a friend from the north of India who is already on the Shakta path, a Devi worshipper. He's just one of those people where his anger is right here and it'll come out at any point. It's like righteous rage. And I was very fascinated by that energy. It's not an energy you often feel as a Krishna devotee. So this Shakta friend messages me and he's like, I'm coming to South India to inaugurate a village temple. And I was like, oh, a village temple. Wow, that's really cool. Who is the deity? And he says, Karuppu Swamy. He is this fierce, protective village deity who is prayed to mainly in Tamil Nadu. I had never heard of him before. And I'd never heard of this concept of Ugra Devata either. As I traveled through rural parts of Tamil Nadu, I kept seeing Devi temples and then Karuppu Swamy, the deity, standing in front of those temples, protecting the entire village, protecting her, protecting everyone. Every time I saw him, I just felt so much love towards him. I was like, oh my God, it's Karuppu Swamy. So I'd go up to him and I'd pray to him. I didn't even know who he was, but I knew that I loved his energy. And so in this way, I was introduced to the concept of Ugra Devatas through Karuppu Swamy and through my Shakta friend. Hold on a second here. Let's take a short but important detour. What is an Ugra Devata? In Sanskrit, the word Ugram can loosely be translated to mean fierce, fearsome, terrifying, intense. It's really an energy that deities can embody versus the more soft and gentle or Somya forms of devatas that we are probably used to worshipping. I've been reflecting a lot on this subject. Why did I not see as many Ugra Devatas growing up? Why was I not encouraged to pray to Kali Amma earlier or to learn about Kaal Bhairava earlier? And why is this the case with so many people who were born into Hindu families? As I was doing my research for this video, I stumbled across a really old book, The Village Gods of South India, and it's written by the Right Reverend Henry Whitehead, Bishop of Madras. The book is from 1921, during the British invasion of India. The author repeatedly refers to Ugra Devata worship as wholly degrading, intellectually, morally, and spiritually. It is a religion of fear and superstition, finding its outward expression in mean, ugly symbols and in forms of worship that are, to a very large extent, disgusting and even immoral. He endorses converting entire villages to Christianity in a way that, quote, they will level the shrine of their local deity to the ground and build a Christian prayer house on the site. Let's think about this. As hurtful as these words are, India was invaded ruthlessly by the British for several centuries. In this process, we learnt to hold a sense of shame and fear towards our Ugra Devatas. Hinduism isn't just about ahimsa and praying to Krishna and Vishnu. And I learned this on my 3-month trip through India. It is equally about Tantra. It is equally about praying to Ugra Devatas. It is equally about the Aghoras. It is equally about all of the different paths that coexisted so beautifully. Understanding and honoring and beginning to rekindle Ugra Devata worship in our community again, what we are doing is healing from a violent past that was inflicted upon us by simply inviting our Ugra Devatas back into our world and honoring them the way they deserve to be honored. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the inauguration of the Karuppu Swamy Kovil. So my grandma still lives in India. And she was like, you can't go because he's an Ugra Devata. There may be things that happen during the inauguration that will scare you. Back then, I was a very different girl. I didn't have the fire and the strength that I have now, thanks to all of this spiritual work. And that really scared me, what my grandma said. And I was like, maybe I'm not meant to meet my Shakta friend. As luck or as the deities would have it, a couple of days later, my Shakta friend messaged me and he was like, hey, I'm actually in Coimbatore. Let me come see you. In the Rama temple in Coimbatore, they were doing a whole bunch of Bharatanatyam, like dance performances, Carnatic performances. It was awesome, but it was all in Tamil. So my Shakta friend comes and I get to translate for him. Someone from the north, someone from the south, two completely different sampradayas or two completely different pathways that they've chosen to reach God, but we're just together. I could see he was really moved. And I started to tell him what had been happening on my trip to India. All of the intense experiences that I was suddenly having with Devi in Tamil Nadu. I don't think I'm allowed to share any of this with anyone, but I told him because I knew he prays to Devi. And the first thing he said was, you need to be able to hold her energy. Because right now you are completely unstable with her energy. You have to stabilize. I wasn't a Devi devotee at all back then, and I didn't know what he meant, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll stabilize. As we were leaving the Rama temple, we continued talking about the experiences that I had with Devi. I don't know what made him do this. He suddenly dropped his bag, reached into his bag, and he pulled out this black raksha. Can you guys see it? And he says, this is from a Kaal Bhairav temple. It was somewhere from the north. And then he also gave me holy water, jalam, in like a little plastic bottle from the same Kaal Bhairav temple. And he said, keep this with you, keep the raksha with you, and it will protect you throughout your entire trip in India. And then he put the raksha on me. It was such a touching moment, and we parted ways. And I haven't seen him since that day. But that was the first time I properly heard of the deity Kaal Bhairav. Here I was with this raksha from a Kaal Bhairav temple, and I didn't even know who Kaal Bhairav was, but I knew in that moment that I was going to meet him, and I was right.
The story goes that Vishnu and Brahma are caught up in a heated battle to decide who actually is superior. And amidst this battle, all of a sudden, a massive pillar of light emerges that is so blinding. It's like infinity suns put together as big as the universe and beyond. And a voice appears: whoever can find the beginning or end of this pillar is the most powerful. So Vishnu takes the form of a boar and decides to see if he can find the beginning of the pillar of light. And Brahma becomes a white swan and flies towards the top of the pillar of light to see where it ends. Eventually, both of them realize there is no beginning or end to Parameshwara. And Vishnu, in his humility, realizes this, comes back to Shiva and says, "You win." But Brahma's ego is so large at that point, he spots a Ketaki flower dropping from the heavens down below. Brahma has an idea. He asks the Ketaki flower, "Are you willing to come with me and lie to Shiva and pretend to be a witness and say that I actually found you at the top of the pillar of light?" The Ketaki flower says yes. And so Brahma and the Ketaki flower show up in front of Shiva and Vishnu and say, "Hey, we won." Of course, Shiva is infuriated in his rage that Brahma lied. And remember, Satyam, truth, is at the core of Sanatana Dharma. In his fury, out of Shiva's third eye emerges the Ugra form of Shiva, Kaal Bhairav. Kaal Bhairav appears at that point in all of his Ugram, fierce, intense glory, his beauty, his black skin, his fire, his energy. With the nail on his pinky finger, Kaal Bhairav beheads the fifth head of Brahma, vanquishing his ego forever. But having done this, Kaal Bhairav also incurs one of the gravest sins, Brahmahatya. In some versions of this story, it is said that a young woman by the name of Brahmahatya appears and is now attached to Kaal Bhairav until he can atone for this sin. As well as this, Brahma's fifth head is now stuck to Kaal Bhairav's hand, a reminder of what he has done. And so Kaal Bhairav begins to wander across all dimensions, all space, all of the worlds, looking for atonement for the sin of Brahmahatya. No matter where Kaal Bhairav goes or what he does, he isn't able to atone for the sin of Brahmahatya until he steps foot into the Kshetram of Kashi. The moment he steps foot there, the skull of Brahma falls and detaches itself from Kaal Bhairav's hand and falls to the ground, and the young woman Brahmahatya leaves him. And it is here that Kaal Bhairav stays and becomes the protector of Kashi.
I was now living next to the Sri Ranganatha Swamy Kovil in Sri Rangam. I was like going around like praying to Krishna. You guys have to go to Sri Rangam and stay there for a week. You would just be transported to another realm. In Sri Rangam, there is also a very famous Shiva temple. I'm getting chills. I'm going to put the name of the temple here. One of the temples had a murti of Amma called Akhilandeshwari. This murti of Akhilandeshwari was one of the most intense murtis I have ever met in my entire life. And after I met her, I remember I walked out from that temple and this completely random stranger came up to me and he was like, "Do you always look like this?" And I was like, "Wow, okay, I don't know what that means." And he's like, no, you look like Devi as you walked out of the temple. And I was like, "Dude, what?" And then he just walked off. I was really overwhelmed by the energy of that temple. So I sat down and I don't know what made me do this. I wasn't a Devi devotee back then, but I pull out my phone and I look up the lyrics for the song Shri Chararaja Simhasaneshwari. And I started singing it to her. And literally, that is the song that was the highlight of my Devi Upasana 8 months later, when I finally became a Devi devotee. That just came full circle for me. I met Devi first. I was wiped out by her energy. You can see that I'm like literally speechless as I think of Devi. So her energy has an ability to just completely take me out of this world. It was after I had that interaction with her that I met Kaal Bhairav for the first time. And he was in one of these Shiva temples. And I saw him and I was just like, oh my God, it's Kaal Bhairav. You know that feeling of when you see a really dear friend and that friend is like a brother to you and you see them after so many years and all you have is love and all you have is all of the memories of you guys being together, and it's just, and oh my God, hi, how have you been? So good to see you. That was the feeling and the energy that I had when I saw Kaal Bhairav's murti in that temple. So I prayed to Kaal Bhairav there and then, and I'm like, I don't know you as well as I know the other deities, but I already love you. I already love you. You're like my big brother. That's the relationship I have with Kaal Bhairav. He's like a really overprotective, much older big brother who won't deal with your nonsense, but will protect you fiercely. And that's how I met Kaal Bhairav. And I knew as I left that temple, having prayed to Kaal Bhairav for the first time, that he was a part of my life and that he would, why am I getting emotional? That's it. Like he was going to be with me through to the end. And I knew that the moment I left that temple. Less than a year later, I was doing Kaal Bhairav Upasana. It's crazy to me that some people are afraid of him, but I also kind of understand it. When I think about Kaal Bhairav's story, I also am reminded of Kali Amma's story. Both of them were born out of the intentionality of righteous rage. These deities have zero tolerance for adharma. They stand for truth, they stand for justice, and they stand for protecting their devotees, for protecting those with pure hearts and pure intentions. So we need to reignite the practice of connecting to Ugra Devatas. There's actually nothing scary about them if you are approaching them with a pure heart, with the right intentions, and with total surrender and limitless love. And so with Kaal Bhairav's energy, initially when you meet him, you'll be like, oh my God, Ugra Devata. And it's true. His intensity is incredible. When I was doing Upasana for him, I remember his energy feeling like when fire gets so hot that it becomes white. But once you walk through that fire and that fire burns away all of your lies, all of your ego, all of your most dense negative energies, right? The lust, the shame, the self-hatred, the envy, the rage, all of those parts of you that you have been too afraid to look at. You walk through Kaal Bhairav's fire, and that fire will literally devour all of those lower energies out of you. It'll clear you out. And then you stand before Kaal Bhairav, and all you feel is limitless compassion and limitless love. Once you've walked through that fire, there's only love. There's only love. And that is the case, in my experience, with Kali Amma as well. Kali Amma's energy is a lot more intense, actually. It's a lot more volatile. Kaal Bhairav's energy is like a stable, deep, unending love. Once you have established that love connection with Kaal Bhairava, he will never leave your side. You will literally be able to connect to him just by saying his name. Like, Kaal Bhairava, like, I need you right now. And he'll be there. He will show you the meaning of love and loyalty and justice and truth. If you are ready to live in truth, then you are ready to connect with Kaal Bhairava. And that means you have to be ready to lose everything that is false. Everything that is born out of falsehood. If you're ready to let go of that, all of that, right? And it's gonna hurt, then you surrender to Kaal Bhairav. Kaal Bhairav is for you if you actually, truly are committed to truth as your highest ideal. Truth no matter what. And truth means no more lying to yourself. No more building a life that is not 100% aligned to who you are. No more committing to things that you don't actually 100% care about. No more putting on a facade of being someone that you aren't. Everything that is false will leave the moment you surrender to Kaal Bhairav. And it's incredible. It's actually incredible. In the next part of this series, we'll be diving deeper into understanding Kaal Bhairav's iconography and what he truly represents. And then I'm going to prepare you to do Kaal Bhairav Upasana. It's going to be a powerful, powerful series, and I hope you're feeling really excited to connect to Kaal Bhairav in a very intense and incredible life-changing way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for part 2.